Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the final predictions episode for the 2019 season for Overwatch League fan thoughts and analysis. It's been a long ride, but we have finally made it here. Before I make my grand finals picks, let's just take a look at where my bracket was the last time that we saw it, or my most recent bracket. Not my original one, just my most recent one. And as you can see it here, um, you may see some things about it that look pretty good. It was a pretty accurate bracket for the most part. It was a good bracket. It wasn't 100% though. The only thing I didn't get correct was the Rain Spark game, where the Spark beat the Rain 4-0, but then they lost to the Shock, and then the Shock beat the Excelsior, and we have the Shock Titans meeting in the grand finals. Now you can see, of course, my prediction in this bracket was the Shock to beat the Titans. The question is, has that changed? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But that is my bracket from the last time we saw it. That was my predicted bracket, and the only thing I got wrong was the Rain Spark match, which didn't really end up impacting anything because I didn't have either of those teams making it past the losers round 3 anyway. But obviously, let's take a look at what actually did happen. Obviously, I just kind of said what happened. We'll take a look at the live bracket right now. And here it is, as you can see. The last time we had playoff matches, the Hangzhou Spark and the San Francisco Shock won their games in the second round of the losers bracket, which then set up the losers round 3 match between those two teams. Then we had, of course, the New York Excelsior and the Vancouver Titans play in the winners finals. It was a 7-map series that ended up going the way of the Vancouver Titans. Get to losers round 3. The San Francisco Shock are victorious over the Spark. And then we get to losers finals, and the San Francisco Shock are victorious over the New York Excelsior, giving them a road to the grand finals to face off against the Vancouver Titans. It's a very big series, a very important series, I think, to see what's going on. So, now I will talk about it. This series is, of course, one of the things I feel like everyone has just kind of expected this to be what we're going to get. It just kind of felt like destiny that this would be the series that we would get at the end of the day. It's felt like this would be where we ended the season. It's where we ended stage 1. It's where we ended stage 2. It was one of the biggest rivalries throughout the entire season. So, of course, we would get to this point. I think it's going to be an amazing series. I think all of the series that have happened between the these two teams have been really, really good. It's going to be exciting to see how this one ends. So the question is, who wins this series? And I think if you've been following at all the Overwatch League this season, and especially if you've been following the playoffs, I think you'll get a pretty good sense of where these two teams are. Obviously, San Francisco did lose a match already in this playoff. They lost their first match 4-3 against the Atlanta Reign. It was a really close match. They had a very kind of disappointing C9 that got them eliminated from the winners bracket, but they have run the table ever since. They've not lost a single map since then. Okay? And they did it against the London Spitfire, the LA Gladiators. They did it against the Hangzhou Spark. They did it against the New York Excelsior. They did it against really, really, really good teams. The Vancouver Titans struggled against the Seoul Dynasty, pulled it off in the end. Against the Hangzhou Spark, they won pretty convincingly, but there were definitely some moments there. They struggled against New York, and it wasn't like New York wasn't a good team. New York played very well. They played very well throughout the playoffs, but Vancouver was not very dominant against New York. San Francisco has been very dominant in every series they played, except for the one against the Atlanta Reign. And I think you have to look at where the Shock are and where the Titans are, and you have to be confident in the Shock. They've had a lot more time to refine this meta. Now, one thing that is interesting that I will say, and I think could have an impact, is that last week, at one point in time, we saw Stryker tweet out that he had gotten an injury. He had been in an accident of some sort. They didn't necessarily say what kind of injury. They just said it was an injury. Um, so, or he was in an accident of some sort. They didn't even say what kind it was. So that could potentially be an issue going forward if they don't have Striker um, able to be at his best. Now, granted, Architect and Rascal are also very, very, very good uh, players for this team, so it's not that big of a deal. But Striker did have an injury. I think that's something to note. It was an accident, and it was on his arm and his leg. So he looks like he fell off like a bike or something. That would be my guess of what happened. But he is in Philly. Um, uh, but yeah, it's pretty bad looking. I won't show the pictures. I'll include a link in the description to the tweet if you want to check them out. But it's not it's not pretty. So we'll see what happens. You know, he very well could not be 100%. I mean, he replied to Baby Bay when Baby Bay said, "Are you okay?" That he said, "I'm fine. I can play." So you know, we'll see if that's true. Um, you know, if there's one thing with gaming that you need, it's your hands. Now it's his left hand. I assume he is a right-handed player, so maybe it's not as big of a deal. It's not the hand that he has to move all of his he moves his mouse with, but it is interesting. But I don't think that should stop the San Francisco Shock from being the team that walks away with the grand finals trophy when all is said and done. I still think the Shock are the stronger team. I think they've shown that just by the fact that they've been able to run the table in the losers bracket since they lost. I don't have any real doubts in my mind that San Francisco will win this series. Maybe a little bit of a doubt. I shouldn't say no doubts in my mind. It could go either way, but I think the Shock right now look like the better team. I think they have looked stronger throughout the latter half of the season. Ever since stage two, I think everyone's been in agreement that San Francisco's been the best team in the league. It's just that now is really like their chance to show that they are the best team in the league. And I don't even necessarily think that if they lose, you can say maybe they're not the best team in the league. It depends on how close. If it's a 4-3 series and Vancouver wins it, you could still maybe make an argument that San Francisco is the better team in the league. I think it's hard to do that at that point in time because if the Vancouver Titans win the playoffs, they would have had to beat a lot of really, really good teams to get there. So, it's a little difficult at that point in time to say that that's true, but I'm really excited for this match. I'm going to be at the Florida Mayhem watch party for it, so I'm really excited for it. And that'll be really, really cool. But um, that's that's uh that's what I think is going to happen. Now, one last time, let's take a look at my original bracket, which, as you know, did not come anywhere near to being true. I predicted very few things right, except for the fact that I did predict the San Francisco Shock and the Vancouver Titans to be in the grand finals. But there it is. If you want to take a look at it and pause for a second and look at how bad it was, it's pretty bad. But that's the bracket that I had originally. Hope you guys enjoy it. So, grand finals. Just looking at the way things are going to go, I'm going to pick the San Francisco Shock. I think they look stronger. I think they have been a better team recently. I think that they have the much more talented roster in terms of the DPS slot. I think that's the most important part. I think Haxel's a very good player. I think Sinatra's better. And then I think that Somin Su is a good player, but I think Striker is better. I think you have that really big boost there. I think that's super important. I think Smurf is a very good player. I don't necessarily think he's better than Tizzy, but I think he's a very solid player. He's doing his job very well. Choi Hyobin, I think, is better than Jondu. I think Choi Hyobin is an insane player. He's crazy good. He's really talented. And then the support line is really where it gets interesting because I think Moth is probably the best Western support in the league. And Viola's a very good flex support. I wouldn't say as good as necessarily Twilight, but the support in this meta, the support line isn't as important as the DPS. The DPS is really the most important part of this meta and your Sigma. And those are kind of the strengths you need. And I think as a whole, Choi Hyobin's been a stronger Sigma than what we saw from Janu. So I think that the Shock, I think, have the better chance of winning. They've been dominant so far in this playoffs, with the one exception being their loss to the Atlanta Reign. I really don't see this going Vancouver's way unless it's a really close series, right? To me, it's either like San Francisco wins this 4-0 easy, or it's 4-3, and then it goes either way if it's 4-3. Like, that to me is the only way this series goes. Like, that's the way San Francisco has been playing recently. That's the ultimate prediction that I will make for this. I don't really see this being a super close series that, you know, goes heavily in favor of Vancouver towards the end, you know? It's really, to me, like either one sided for the Shock, really close series, that most likely goes Shock's way as well. But that's just me. That's how I feel about this. I'd love to hear your predictions down below. I'd like to hear what you're doing for it, if you're doing anything exciting for it. I would love to know what it is that you're doing, but I am going to end this video off here. I feel like this video is a little bit all over the place at times, but it is what it is. It is me. That's what you can kind of expect from me. So yeah, that's everything I have for you today. You'll have another video on Monday. We're talking about grand finals. We're going to talk about the off-season player move stuff, because that all begins on Monday, is when the first phase of player move stuff will can start. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of that on Monday as well. So that's what you can expect for Monday. But I'm going to get out of here. So once again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing, as it does help out a lot with the channel. But I am going to get out of here. So bye-bye. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the grand finals. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.